And we'll go to appliances. Now, appliances, very similar, a little bit simpler, but they're the machines or devices used for cooking, storing, or preparing food and other things. And in order to call it an appliance rather than just general kitchenware, it usually requires electricity or gas to be considered an appliance, some kind of power. So, of course, the most common is the cooker or stove. Okay, so this whole thing here, okay, that is a cooker. In Britain, in America, they call that a stove. Okay, and it contains the hob, okay, and maybe the oven and grill, okay, here. So, of course, we've got the microwave as well. Don't forget microwave. Very useful is the microwave. This is actually a sandwich maker or a toasty maker for toasting. Not very common, really, but they're quite popular. A fridge, okay, is this. Sometimes people say refrigerator, but it's actually much more common to simply say fridge. Okay, I would never say refrigerator myself. It's a bit more common in America to say refrigerator, okay, but here in the UK, always fridge. If you have a combination of fridge and a freezer, we call it a fridge freezer as one word. I have a great fridge freezer myself, very common. Toaster, or toaster, like there. Your slow cookers, now I haven't got a picture of a slow cooker, but a slow cooker's an automatic device for cooking food very slowly, used for curries, stews, making Mexican chili, or maybe making something like pulled pork or shredded chicken, something that takes a very long time to cook. Very, very useful. Now, the most important appliance in any British kitchen is the kettle. In America, they'll sometimes call this a tea kettle. Okay, but correctly, that's not the term. It's just simply a kettle in the UK, because we don't only use it for tea. Okay, a kettle is used to boil water for pasta. A kettle is used to boil water for vegetables or for making soup, or hundreds and hundreds of different things. So yeah, it's a very useful term to learn, kettle, okay, for this thing that boils water. Okay, so a food processor is basically anything similar to this that basically mixes, automatically chops, or automatically does some kind of chopping or mixing or preparation for food is called a food processor, some kind of machine for that. Similar to that is a blender, and often they're the same thing. Often a food processor will contain a blender or something like that. A blender, again, is something for aggressively mixing or automatically mixing or chopping or making something smooth. But a blender generally, okay, sometimes you'll get a hand blender, which you can put, say, for example, you're making leek and potato soup and you're frying your leeks and you boil your potatoes, you mix together and you blend it to make it into a smooth soup. So often a blender is to make, is for liquids, and it's to make that liquid into a smooth, thick liquid. Okay, blender. Okay, so hood, that's this thing above, sometimes called an extractor fan, a hood. A toaster, you guys know the toaster already. Rice cooker, very similar to a slow cooker. I think you guys probably know rice cooker even better than me, but it's those machines that you use, okay, in your kitchen to cook and keep rice warm for many hours, a rice cooker. Very useful. Dehydrator is for drying food, so dried fruit or dried meat, commonly made in a dehydrator, very useful as well. And a dishwasher, of course, is for after we finish cooking, an appliance used to save washing up, okay, to save on washing the dishes. All right, awesome work, guys. Let's move on, and we'll go to the first part of the cooking process, prep. Okay, and you notice I say prep instead of preparation. Usually when we talk about this process, we don't say preparation. We simply say prep, and chefs will often say prep this, prep that. So prep can be used as a verb. Prep can be used as a noun. Okay, it's a very common word when we talk about cooking. So prep is all the preparation we do to get the ingredients ready for the cooking. Okay, so let's talk about some common terms. So cutting up vegetables or chopping vegetables. I will say chop is a little bit more common for vegetables, but chop, cut, slice, all these are quite similar. I'll just say that chop is more of these kind of speedy chop, 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 chop. Slice is more careful. Okay, slice is more careful and delicate. Cut is quite flexible. So I might say this is like chopped. I might say this is sliced, but you can use chop or slice for either of them. You'll often hear people use dice. Very common and dice just means chop things up very small, like dice. The reason we say it is you cut it up so it's small like a dice. Okay, right? Just like that. Okay, so you'll often hear people use the term dice potatoes, dice the onions, and that means to cut it small, usually into small squares, but it doesn't have to be accurate squares usually. Okay, and yet crush is another useful term for preparing, specifically used for garlic quite a lot. You crush garlic like this. Okay, it's whenever you have some kind of pressure that crushes it down. Very useful term. Whisk. Okay, we whisk eggs. Okay, very useful. So this is a whisk. Again, we come to whisk. You can use whisk as a verb, which is the action of doing this. Okay, when whisking your eggs, okay, or whisking your cake mix, okay, to add air. You'll often hear fold as well. That's when we use a spoon to turn like cake mix and add air to it. Knead is very useful, very specific process when we knead dough. Okay, when we massage or move around the dough, okay, then that's kneading. Okay, now it could be the dough you use for making bread. It could be the dough used for making pasta or noodles, whatever you like. Dough. Okay, and don't say dough. Okay, dough. Okay, really important. Okay, so just a few other useful terms. Sprinkle. And I think the best way to describe sprinkle is this. Okay, so when we sprinkle something, okay, we spread it around. Okay, we scatter it in small amounts. So sprinkle some herbs on the top. Okay, you might sprinkle salt as well, but often we use the term season. Season with salt and pepper, season with chili powder, whatever. And dust is often used with sugar, particularly icing sugar, that soft, thin sugar that you have on top of cakes or whatever, okay, or biscuits, you dust. Okay, and dust is, again, similar to sprinkle, is to spread powder or dust in a sort of thin, even way. Some other useful terms for liquids. So to dip is, for example, maybe with tempura or fish and chips. Okay, you put the fish or put the vegetables into the batter and take out again. That's called dipping. So you dip in batter, okay, and then you fry it, maybe. Marinate, I highly recommend you learn this word. The verb is marinate. The noun is marinade. Okay, so marinate means to soak in a marinade, to soak in some kind of liquid flavor. Okay, to soak in flavor. So sometimes you marinate for 24 hours. Sometimes you marinate for half an hour. Okay, so for example, to make a curry, you might say, mix all the herbs and spices with some yogurt, put in the chicken, and marinate overnight. And that basically means leave in the fridge, in the liquid, so it absorbs the flavor overnight. Marinate, very useful term. The other one's soak. And again, soak and marinate can be very similar terms, so you don't panic. Marinate's a little bit more common when we talk about long periods of time. Soak is usually used for shorter periods of time. Okay, so for example, soak the meat in brine before you cook it or whatever. Okay, but yeah, marinate is usually when we talk about many hours or days. Okay, to soak the flavors together, we marinate overnight, but we might soak in brine for a few hours. Okay, but yeah, if it's long period, I recommend the word marinate generally. All right, guys, there's some information on prep. Okay, I hope that's useful.